Hey everyone, welcome back to Skill Up with Dinesh. So as we know that there is a war going on between Israel and Iran, and now today due to that war, there is one of the AWS region that is in Bahrain has been affected. So, so this video gives me an opportunity where I can showcase how you should design a multi-region failover architecture for your application, so that even if one of the region goes down, your application can be up and running. Okay, so let's start with the some basic confusion. So what most of the AWS or DevOps engineers thinks that their system is always highly available because they have enabled the multi-availability zone. But that's the reality, guys. So because availability zone works only within the region. So if an entire region goes down, then definitely your application will be going down. And as we have seen that actually can happen. Okay, so in today's video, let's step by step decode what's the difference between multi availability zone and multi region, and how we can architect a system that is independent of region. Okay, so basically we can configure a system that is running in two regions, and there is a failover switch, so that whenever some our primary region goes down, the traffic will be moved to the another region. Okay, so now let's very first start with the confusion between multi-availability zone and multi-region. Okay, so let me show it here. So, so let's say this is our EC2 machine running on. Okay, and it is definitely in one of the availability zone. Sorry, in one of the region. So I will let's say call it US East 1. So here our machine is running. Now availability zones are subdivided parts of the same region. So let's say here we can divide this into this region into four parts. Let's say this will be US East 1A. We can call it US East 1B and US East 1C. Similarly, US East 1D. Okay, so availability zones are part of the same region. So now, what most of the so when we say high availability, it means deploying your applications into more than one availability zone. So let's say here we are running our EC2 instance, but we will also run one copy of our EC2 machine here. Okay, so that even if something goes wrong with this availability zone, our machine will be running from this availability zone. Okay, but that is only effective when your region is safe. Okay, if something goes wrong with this region, this entire region is down, then all of the availability zone in the same region will also go down. Okay, so high availability will only work until your region is safe. Okay, now what are the regions? So as we know that regions are geographically isolated from each other. So if we say there are two regions, let's say US East 1, okay, and US West 2 and US West 2. So they both are very far from each other, there is a distance between them, and in this case if something goes wrong with this region will not be affected. Okay, so let's take the today's situation. Let's say call this is our Bahrain region. Okay, we'll call it Bahrain BH. So now if due to the war this particular area is affected, means this Bahrain falls under let's say one of the country Iran or Israel. So due to the war that particular country is affected, so this region can go down, but as this is a completely different region, so this will be still up and running. So we should design our application in a way that we have our application running in both of the region, let's say here as well as here. So if something goes wrong with this region, our application will be served from this region. Okay. Now to explain this, so yeah, so I think that's pretty much clear between the difference between availability zones and multi-region. So if I say in the one word, so multi-region means your application is deployed into completely two different geographies. So even if one of the region or one of the geography goes down, our system will be still running. And multi-availability zone gives us high availability, and multi-region will give us survivability. Okay. Now let's see how a application will actually look when we design a multi-region architecture. So I have already designed an architecture for one of the application. So here this is our application, and our application is consisting of, let's say, EC2. So the EC2s are managed from auto scaling groups. Okay, and then we have database, let's call it RDS. We are using RDS database, and to store our static data like images or video or something, we are using S3 bucket. And the networking is basically managed from Route 53. So here we have a load balancer, and from here the traffic goes to our main instances. So let's say if we have such kind of application, so this is basically a three-tier application where we have the web servers from EC2, then we have a database layer from RDS, and then we have a storage layer, that is S3. So let's say we have to design this application for multi-region. So how the architecture will look like? So first of all, we will be having a Route 53, and after Route 53, we will choose two different regions, and there could be anyone. And let's say if your business allows that you can use any two regions, then it's always wise decision to choose two different countries. But if your business says that your data should stay within the country, so let's say if we are working in India, so one region we can take as Mumbai, and another region could be Hyderabad. So this is active passive architecture. Active and passive. So what does that mean? The active means where our actual traffic is served, and this is a standby. Passive is standby. It will only be functional when this goes down. Active goes down. Okay. So in this situation, so we have our load balancer, and then we have auto scaling group, and then we have our EC2 instance. Those EC2 instance are then connected to RDS, and then that RDS maybe have connectivity to S3 bucket. Connectivity means whenever we store any image to S3 bucket, that image name or image path will be stored in the RDS. Okay. So here two parts like S3 buckets and RDS, they provide something native from AWS. So RDS basically provides something called multi availability multi AZ availability. Okay, that is multi AZ availability or global RDS, that is from Aurora. So if you choose that, then AWS will automatically backup your database from one region to another region. So that is automatically managed. And for S3, we can create two buckets in two different regions, and we can enable replication. So what does that mean? So that whenever you upload some data to this bucket, that data will automatically be replicated to the another bucket from the different region. And here the failover actually works on the Route 53 level, so that the user are requesting, let's say, content from our application. So the request will go to Route 53, and there will be some health checks. So due to health check, it will check that if this region is healthy, like it will get, let's say, 200 status. If it is showing that, then your data will be served from this region. But if something goes wrong here, then the traffic will be automatically switched to your passive region. So in that case, you will get your data from this region. So as both of the regions are identical, it means the data are replicated to each other, be it the RDS data or S3 data, and also the application deployed on both of the regions are exactly similar. So for the end user, it will not be possible to determine that from where they are getting that data. So that's how we can create a system that is highly available, as well as it can survive in any catastrophic situation. I hope guys so far it is making sense to you, right? Now so here what things we need to manage and what things AWS will manage. So let's say RDS and then S3 bucket, data, application managed by AWS. Managed by AWS means definitely you need to do some configuration, like for the replication you need to connect those buckets and you need to define the configuration, the replication rules. So once those all are set, automatically data will be moving from one bucket to another bucket. Okay. And so here what you will be managing, so our responsibility will be keeping sync between regions. So as we know guys, that we will be deploying our application to this region. So let's say let's say there are some front end or back end APIs, whatever, and time to time you are making some changes, so you are deploying to these region, okay, through your CI/CD, whatever. So same changes you should also deploy to this region, because the and address should be, both of the regions should be consistent in terms of data, consistent in terms of application. Because it should not be the case that that your latest changes are available in this region but they are not in this region, because if you are not consistently managing it, then it will not serve the purpose. Okay, so that part we need to manage. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, with that, we can create a multi-region application architecture that will be up and running in any situation. Okay. Now there could be some trade-offs. Okay, I mean, like, so we know that there are lots of benefit about this, and but there will be some cons as well. So what are the trade-offs if use this? The very first is cost, because you are maintaining two different environment in two different regions, so you need to pay for both of them. Here we can reduce the cost by technique, by one technique, that so in your active region your application will be running with full capacity, but in passive region what we can do is we can run our resources with minimal capacity. Okay, so let's say if we are running our EC2 instance here, so we can run them let's say T2 micro, so that whenever something goes wrong, in that case only we will increase their capacity. So with this way you can at least reduce some sort of cost. And then second thing will be managing consistency. Okay, so like data consistency you need to manage, and app configs. I mean, like whatever application version you have deployed to your active region, same you need to deploy to your passive region as well. So that is another headache, because for the same kind of application you are managing two different environment. Okay, so these are the two major drawdown. There could be some few more, like we can see is monitoring, because in that case you need to monitor two environments. Okay, so that is also another headache. So yeah, these are the trade-offs when you decide it. So this kind of architecture should only be decided. So now the question arises, when to follow. Okay, when we should follow this practice, when so our business is critical. Okay, let's say our business is very critical and we cannot afford even 1 minute of downtime. So in that case, you should go with this multi-region. Okay, that's one of this scenario, and yeah, I think so. That's enough for the day, guys. So yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to talk in the chat, in the comment box, and yeah, that's all for the day. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.